Hello there, Builderius Pro beta is almost out, so I want to present this tool to you. Builderius is a visual development environment. This is how we call it because although it's a page builder, it's also much more than that, with its unique focus on covering the entire development workflow. From building pages, styling them, working with dynamic data and modifying that data, staging, version tracking, and finally deployment. This will make your workflow more smooth and more stable. We will start here with how we handle HTML. And HTML in Builderius is handled so that you will always have access to all the elements that make your page, starting from site header, site footer, and main, which usually is something that you will not have access to in other builders. Here you can completely control all of that. So in main, let's say we want to change this to div, because in some cases main is not appropriate. I'll use article. You will always have this possibility. You will even have the possibility to do something like create a custom HTML element, and you can see that ID has been made with the attributes functionality, but you can use the same functionality to create other attributes. So for instance, data area label, you can easily do that. So let's check what kind of HTML has been produced by these actions that we have made. So I will go here to what used to be main and see that now this is a custom element with all of these attributes created and nothing else. Inside it, you will see sections that we have created before. Let's go down to really show you this ability to access all the elements. So if I come into the form element, you will see that you have access to all of the elements that comprise the form. You can change it, you can set it up, you can set up all kinds of attributes. Finally, going down to interactive elements, you will see that even things like accordions, where we use the browser native solution with details, you will have access to all these elements. And since you can create these, any HTML element you want, you can make things like this on your own. There are new HTML elements that we didn't yet make, but since you can make them yourselves, you can use them right away. And finally, with dynamic elements, and in this case, these are dynamic tabs, we simply use our collection element, which is our agnostic and general looping mechanism for Builderius to produce tabs and content areas here dynamically. Now let's move on to Builderius styling, or styling with Builderius. With styling in Builderius, you have complete control over all of the CSS you create. We have multiple ways we help you really go deep into your styling possibilities. So let's start from the more easy to the more complex or the more advanced. So I have here selected a section. It's active, and on the right side you can see the Styles tab is open, and we have our styling options. Each of these has some visual controls you can use. So let's see how we can use it in the most basic ways. So right now you see that the local selector has been activated. It's by default active for every element, and if you use it to style your element, it is going to apply your styles to the unique class with a bit higher specificity than the global classes are, so that it can always easily override the global styles. So for instance, we can come here and we can perhaps go to the background and do something like change the background. We can also use different color spaces. So that's one way of adding a style to this element. Another way would be to use custom variables or CSS variables And this is the primary way we advise you to use the values input. So you can do that two ways. One is more user-friendly or maybe UI-friendly, where you can click on this plus and it will bring up the variable selector. So we see that our variable has taken effect. Additionally, you can use classes, and I do something like font. I can hover over these classes to select a different font size for this element. So maybe I like this one, I click it and it immediately gets applied. So we have covered the basic ways you can style your elements and your pages, using the local selector, using classes, and using variables. But we have went much further than that. So let's go step by step to really show you all the ways you can style using Builderius. So if we go back here and go down to the advanced section, here we provide a way, it's a kind of a generic way, you can use UI to add CSS properties that we have not yet implemented in a kind of dedicated way within the builder. One good case of this is, for instance, we still haven't added a grid to the UI. It's coming, but it's not yet done. And you can do it, you can do it. So you can do display grid, and then you can add a new one and say grid columns template, and then finally you can do one FR, and sorry. And it's going to apply. So finally, you can also redefine variables locally. So some builders do have variables, but they don't allow you to easily override the value of the variable locally without changing the name of the variable or reapplying another variable. So let's imagine that you have a global variable whose name is custom var, and maybe it's 2 rem, but here you want it to be 6 rem, right? So here you can just redefine it. And this means that in this scope here, it's going to have a bit bigger value, but only here. Everywhere else, it's going to stay the same. And finally, all of this styling that we have been doing so far has been done using UI. And this is probably something you want to do most of the time. But in some cases, you really need code. And in that case, we can do something like this. So if you select any element, you can see the CSS that's been applied to it. If you select a class, you can also see that. You can go to selectors panel as well and see the CSS applied to that selector. And finally, you can see all the CSS on the entire site, or all the CSS in this template. Currently, there's only one that has been started but never finished. This is that one. And so if we do something like this and tell it to be font size 30 pixels, right? Or maybe even more, maybe do 50. And then also switch back to UI. It's going to be here. Deleting it from here, we'll delete it from here as well. In this chapter, I want to speak about dynamic data. Builderius has a unique approach and flexibility of working with dynamic data. For all dynamic data purposes, we use the underlying engine where we use GraphQL, which is a language developed by Facebook to be used in front-end development when you have complex requirements, where you need to communicate between the front end of development and dynamic data from various sources. So GraphQL is really well suited for builders, where on the one hand you have front-end development where you work with visual stuff, and on the other you want the flexibility of dynamic data. For this to work, you have to have a sort of separation of concerns, this separation between dynamic data itself and how you use it in design. And so let me show you a little bit how it works from more simple to more advanced so that you can understand how we approach it. So here I am in the template for the blog. And this is a template that allows me to very simply get a list of posts without really having to configure my query at all. This is because WordPress template system makes queries on its own. And so when you're on a certain template, you can get some data simply by loading that template. So here we are loading the template for blogs, for blog posts. And so it's very easy to do that. We don't really have to configure anything. So I will go back to elements, and I have prepared here so that we're kind of easier for us, but I've used the collection element. Collection element always comes with a template. Template will not render any HTML. It's just something that holds what is going to be repeated. And then I've made the article with the card class and put heading and paragraph inside. This is everything that I have done. So this is just kind of some putting HTML elements together. Wanted to skip this to be faster. So let's pull some data for the collection. So I selected my collection. I will go to content, click on this little database icon, and just choose post queries. And first step that's happening, it's going to repeat all the posts so that it shows how many. It shows only 4 posts because that is what has been set in the WordPress settings. So quickly, let me go to the dashboard to show you this. So I've set posts to be 4. So it means it's just like after 4, it's not going to show them unless you have pagination. And we will show that in a minute. So this is the first part. To make this, to make some gap between in the quickest possible way, I'm just going to add a grid class to this. And so now we have a headset like this. Okay, so the remaining thing here is just to link the elements to dynamic data parts. So I will go to my heading and delete it and just go to title. So I will type title and I want post title. And if you look at this item, it's under loop category. It has a loop icon in the beginning and it says post title. So we'll just use that. It's pulled these titles for me. And then I'm going to do the same for excerpt. So I'll just type XC and I will get again such an item that says it's a loop item. And I see that I have some escaping here happening. So to avoid that, you can select it all and just add one curly brace to wrap it all 3 times, which prevents the escaping of data. Finally, let's just finish this template by adding the pagination. So I'll select the container, type pagination, which already pulls this data for us. And so it's basically done. So here I can open this template now. I can see that the pagination will work. I can see all my posts. It's been done very simply. Okay, so it was easy. We created a blog page listing all the blog posts. So that was not a problem, but that's hardly what covers all the needs we have with regard to dynamic data for professional builders. So let's make a next step and create a custom query for custom post types and see how that would go. So you have to start with giving this data variable a name so it's easy to refer. So I'm just going to call it testimonials and save and edit. And we have a very powerful feature of autocomplete. It's quite easy to work with it. But for a beginner, I would advise to first explore our snippets feature by just simply adding a snippet and then editing this snippet to match your needs. So to do that, I'm just going to select all of this code just to remove it. And then I'm going to click on snippets. And I know I need a custom query for posts. So I can search in different ways. I can say custom, and we'll see custom post query, but maybe this was not what I thought I should search for. So maybe I say post, And post query is again here. When I click it, it's going to save into, I'm going to save into clipboard. So I'm going to paste this. And because this query is looking for posts and pages, which are default post types on every WordPress site, just by pasting it inside and clicking get data, you're going to get some data. So maybe you're just going to get 2 pages or more, but some pages you should get unless you didn't delete all of the pages and posts. Okay, so now that we see that this is working, we can modify this query to match our needs. I do not want to use pagination. So from start of pagination to the end here, I will just delete it. So let me just quickly tell you what the structure of the query is. So everything in the query is within this object. Everything needs to be inside, and then inside you do what you want to do. Post query is comprised out of 2 sections. One is arguments, which is where you define how to search for data. And then the other one is post, which is basically a kind of data template for what you will need for your posts. The point here is we do not want to use something like REST API where we pull all the data that possibly could be there, but we just want that data that we actually need. So in this case, I really only need post title here. ID, I don't even need, but I will need it later. Let's let it stay here. So I will get data again. Now my JSON output is much smaller, which means more clean, easier to manage, but also much more performant. You can imagine these queries could be a lot of them, and you want to really just get what you need. Okay, so I have post title, but I'm getting this from posts and pages. So this is definitely not what I want. I want testimonials. Let's try singular. Was that the name? Yeah, that's what I wanted. So now I got all my testimonials where post title was used for names of people that said the quote. But this post title is not necessarily how I want to call it because it's actually a person name. So I will just come here and use something called alias, which is basically you just having ability to name your field the way you want. So I'm going to say name and refetch. Okay, so suddenly this is called name, right? And then here, since this is called testimonials, right? I'm just going to call this item. And I'm going to call this loop. Maybe I'm kind of thinking this is nicer, right? Okay, so loop, item, and then name inside. ID, I said I don't need it. I will need it later, and I will explain you why. But for now, I want to leave it, but I just don't want to see it in the output. I'm not going to print the name, the number of ID anywhere. So I'm just going to do something like, like this. And if I start with the add symbol, with the add symbol, I can add one of these 2 flags. And in this case, I want a private. If I now get data, I will now just get exactly what I need, nothing else. This is the beauty of GraphQL. And so now let's add all of the other things we need. We need ACF fields, so we know that. So yeah, let's start. So I will first get a code. That's the main thing, right? So what do I do? ACF. And I have all the possibilities for ACF, but I just want a simple text field. So ACF value, quote, and get data, and bam, I have it. Now this is called ACF value. That's not nice. And now there's 2 reasons why it's not nice. It's not nice because it's not nice, just visually, just not intuitive and all that. But it's also not nice because if I call another ACF value, which I do want to do, and say profession, now it's not working anymore because now I have redefined it again, right? But in GraphQL, it's not like maybe in CSS where if you redefine that just the later one takes precedence, it's just they don't work. So I need to name them. So first one, I want to name quote. And this one I want to call profession. Okay, so I get the data and now I have a nice name, quote, profession. I can add as many ACF fields as I want to. I forgot to add images. I'm going to skip that now. But basically, we just add the image and it would be fine. Finally, let's use it. So I'll close this and go back to my collection. And first, I'm just going to remove this and I'm going to click here and see that now I have testimonial loop item in the testimonials data variable, right? So you want to understand this labeling here. Let's open this for a second. So this is the variable name. This is the kind of a query name now. And then this is the actual repeated thing. And then whatever the field is. So let me do that again. So I'm going to come here and just choose it, right? Now it has repeated all these items, as many as there are. I'm going to remove the pagination. I'm not going to be dealing with that now. And so now I have all these items. I just need to, I need to fill the fields with values. So I want to go to my heading and delete it because that's not how I imagined this to look. So then I'm going to use the paragraph, and I know it's called quote. But if I don't know, I can come here and look for what I have, and I have nice, neat organization of all these fields. So I just want to quote. Okay, so quote is there. Next, I want to add a div, and then in that div, I want two spans. So I'm just going to add two divs, and or maybe just leave these. Okay, so first one is going to be the name of the author. So I'm gonna use the name, and then second I'm going to use the profession, and I want to just combine this with some static text. So I'm going to use the I'm going to use the m dash. So that's kind of, and then what do I need more? I want some small badge here, which would use these terms, this nested query with custom taxonomy inside. So to do that, I'm going to select the card again, and I'm going to add a div again. I'm going to put it on the top, and inside I'm going to say just the label, and I'm going to add something called badge, maybe like this. Okay, so nice. Now I have this little badge, and instead of having label, I want to make my nested query looking for the terms and writing that inside. So I'm going to go back to my dynamic data, and I'm going to do some more work. So I want to add another query inside. It's going to be the terms query. And this time I'm not going to use snippets, although you do have this example here. So you could type term, and it's going to tell you custom query taxonomy terms. Okay, but I'm going to show you how it is to type here. So within posts, right, after the last ACF, just type term, and it's going to offer two things, and we want terms query, and terms query is going to provide you the entire structure of the query. So in the arguments, you want to say taxonomy, and this taxonomy, in my case, it's a label, or maybe labels. We'll see if it works. And then I just press tab, and it puts me to the next place I need to be, which is where I have to put terms. This is same like I have to do here with post. Here it's just terms because it's a terms query. And I'm just going to do name. So I want to print this name of terms. So I'm going to get that data, and it works. Right? So it's already working. Or not entirely. We can see now that every item has all the terms that I have added to this taxonomy. If we come here and look at the taxonomy, we see that we have too many of them. Okay, we don't have the average because it has not been applied to any of the posts, so it's not showing. Otherwise, all of them, right? So how do we make this better, right? So what I will do, I will use this ID sum. So I can use this ID to identify the post and provide the relationship between the terms and the post. So after taxonomy, I can do and just type ID, and it's going to include, like, show me these options. And what I actually want is object IDs, which is a way to refer to an external ID. So here I choose objects IDs, and I do these curly braces, and inside the type ID, but not like this actually. I need double quotes. So this is a bug. We should fix this, and ID like this, right? I think this is all. I will just get data and see that each one has a different single term, because I always added just one. Okay, so I will just give some names to this. So this is, I'm going to be calling it labels, and then item name. That's all I want to do. So now it's going to be labels, item name. I can now close this. And in that article, I want to add another template element, which I can then link to the nested query. So within the article, I'll just do template. I'm going to put it up because that's what I wanted. And then I want to put my badge thingy inside. And in the template, while the template is selected, I see that data source is telling me you can select nested loop here. So I'm going to come here. I see that I have labels item. And finally, I can come here and do this. And bam, it's done. So this name, of course, where does it come from? How did I know it? I didn't. I don't have to. I can come here. I can select this array item. This is just a little dot, and it shows me all the fields I have available in my nested query. And here's the name. So instead of the dot, just type name, and that's it. Now we have nested queries, custom post types, and custom taxonomy is done in a single loop. We can already reuse this query now. So let's say we want another, for whatever reason. Let's say we want to show this one more time, and I will use this container, and I will add another collection. And in this collection, I'm going to add a div, but I'm actually going to change it to li. And collection, I'm going to change to ul. And I'm going to use the same testimonial loop. And inside, I'm going to change this to name. And I'm getting all these names. And maybe I want to call this, thing something like. Okay, so we have built 2 loops so far. Let's continue. We can build ACF repeaters as well. And in this case, it might be useful to put post object in the repeater and manage the order and which post objects particular post would show. And so this is a repeater. I've called it looper. I've added some items inside. These are posts that I have chosen. I could add one more. I don't know. Maybe this. Okay, so now I have 5 of them. That's fine. So I'll save it. Okay. And then inside I could now type it, but why would I do that? I'm going to just go to snippets and choose the repeater field. I'm going to paste inside. I said I called it looper. And let's do it also here. Repeater. And post title, I shouldn't need this as well. So I'll just get the data, and I see I have the repeater working. These comments here are made to explain all the code, but you can also remove it. Okay, so now we're getting something quite similar to what you would get with REST API. We're getting everything that is possibly available to us for these testimonials, which, of course, we don't want. So we'll remove this and going to go to ACF repeater with structured fields. So now that we paste this, again, removing all that, saying looper here. I'm not going to leave this one. This is if you would have something else in addition to post object. Let me leave ID and the post title. I don't need other things for now. I'm going to remove the comment and get data now. And now I have name, quote, and profession. So I'm going to duplicate this one. And I'm just going to pull it here. My repeater is available here. I see that it's been repeated. So first of all, paragraph. It's not working with quote. And that's because of the repeater, the structure is not exactly the same. So this is post quote this time. So this is working. Then I now know that if I write post, the name is going to work. And if I type post profession, it's also going to work. And this is now with the repeater. So maybe I want to really do also the subquery. So let's add it. So I will go back to my testimonials. I'll use the labels query. Go back to my looper. So this is my post. So it has to be within the post. Let me indent this a little bit. I think it's good now. And get the data again. Again, I have the same issue. I've got all of them. So before the name, I'm going to say ID and private. So finally, I just have to and it's done. Finally, let's do some remote queries. Let's fetch some data from a remote site and display it on our own site. And let's now make our variable. So I'll just say tavern, because we're going to use WP tavern as our source. And I will again remove all this, go to snippets, and see that here I've already made a search. And I have two of them. I'm going to use the advanced version. And I'm going to copy it to my clipboard and then paste here. You can see here we are using a couple of queries to clean up the JSON that is being given to us. But basically the first one is where we make this request towards wptavern.com. So without going very deeply into it, let's fetch some data. Now we'll see we are receiving posts. Now, what you can notice here is that we're using something called PHP function output, which is the implementation within GraphQL, where you can get the results of any PHP function, any WP function, or any custom function that you have yourselves written somewhere on the site, so available to you. Right? We're using WP remote get. It's a native WordPress function for retrieving JSON data, and then we're playing with that JSON to get a nicer output. Still, it's a REST API, so we're getting a lot. So I'm not going to be working much more on this, but let's do something simple like let's change posts to users and get that data, and we'll see that we are now getting different users that publish on the Tavern site. So maybe those users could be what we want to use in our in here. So let's remove this. Tavern is the name. So I'll look for Tavern and I'll see that immediately I'm getting my users. Why? Why does it immediately work? Because name is the name we provided in the previous example, and it seems to be that that's also the field name given to us from the REST API. So we didn't even have to change that. So how do the components work in Builderius, and how is it that Builderius is a component-first system? So you can notice within different areas of the builder that we provide you the ways to scope your CSS, your dynamic data, different things to various scopes, from global to component. So this is intentional, and it's part of the overall architectural decisions. But also we provide ways to create reusable components with properties, with custom properties. And we also allow you to nest them. We allow you to do all kinds of powerful things with them. We also use them for things that some builders use template parts for, which is we use them for headers and footers. You have seen me use this already. So these things here are actually components. And these are built in, and these are the ones that you will get as soon as you install the builder. But you can also create your own. You can create custom components, and you can combine them with dynamic data and all of that. So I'm going to provide some examples of how you can build components in Builderius. And then in another video, we may do a deep dive. Bear in mind, components stage right now in our development is that we have the functionality, but the UI is still rudimentary. So you will have to do a bit more typing, but it is still going to all work. So I'm going to take this first example, and I'm going to right click on the component, and I'm going to say create component. It's going to ask me to give it a name. So I'm going to call it pricing card and save and open. And it's going to open in a new tab. It's going to be highlighted so you can know when you are in the component editing mode or in the normal template. You will have here some explanation of what the green line means in case you're not sure. And then you're going to be taken to the documentation once it's ready to learn more about components. So I'm going to scroll down and tell you how this works. So component properties creation has two stages. One is creating properties, component properties, and second is linking those properties to HTML elements that you have in your component. So when no elements is selected, right, you will see this new property creation interface. In case something was selected, you can easily come there by again clicking on the same thing, which is going to unselect it. Or you can go here and go to properties like that. Anyways, once you see the interface, you can start creating your properties. So I'm going to say title and placeholder. Then I'm going to say lorem ipsum description of here. Then I'm going to add the button text. Then I'm going to add also the URL, so it can be button what URL. And this one I'm going to just put the hashtag. Features we can leave static. So finally we need this UL to be editable as well. And to do that, we need some dynamic data. So instead of this UL, I'm going to delete it. I'm going to add my collection. I'm going to change the collection to UL list. And inside, I'm going to add li. Okay. So now we have all this. And so here, we will actually have to link this item to a property as well. So I will unselect it all, create the last one, which is going to be called features. And so that you can immediately see some list, I'm going to immediately make some placeholder here. And what we need to write at this moment before we have the UI is going to be a simple JSON array to just generate some placeholder list items. So this is how you type it. So it has to be within the square brackets. Each item has to be in double quotes, and you just call item, and then comma, and then item again. 2 is enough, that's the minimum, right? Okay, so finally we need to connect all this. So let's start from the title. So here, when you're in the component, you will have this little plus button. You don't have it outside of it. So if you look at here and you go to something, you just have the database. You don't have the plus. The plus is available to you only when you are here in the component. So we will come here and say title. Yeah, I have to go down. Then you have to go to the paragraph and call the description. Then you have to go to the link and call the button text and the button URL. Then finally you need to go to the UL and call the features. And finally in the LI, you need to use. And now we can save it. When we go out of the component, delete one, delete the second one, and delete the last one. And let's duplicate our components now. So all of these are now pricing cards. And so let's edit those properties. So here I'm going to say, maybe I call it simple. This is free to use and doesn't okay. Then the button is going to be download, and we spell here something like. Finally, write some other array. So we can say, oops. Okay, so this is our first one. Second one can be standard. And do something like, I don't know, $9. And the last one, okay, so this is an easy way to show you how to create components with properties, with different fields. All of these are going to get specific UI suited really for them, but the functionality already works. So finally, let's just show how you can highlight some of the tiers using simple classes. Right. So first, I'm going to open up my pricing card again, and let's scroll down to it and select the outer element. And actually not select anything, create a property called style. This is not going to create a style attribute, it's just the name. And here's it's going to be empty. And then on the outer element, so class, and then I link it to style. And I can now check if this is working, and it seems to be working. All right. Now tweak it to be more transparent and more subtle. maybe like this. Okay. I can now see, I can use it on all of these. So just pasting highlighted, we'll add it to any of these components. That is all for this presentation. I have shown you the most important pillars of the Builder that we have been focusing on in this release. We have been focusing mostly on developers and power users in this release by providing strong fundamental technologies to create a versatile and strong platform. But don't be afraid. On all of these elements in the future releases, we will be bringing UI to help you do this more easily without touching code, but using code to extend when you need it, if you need it. So see you in the next video, and goodbye.